Just how big of a deal is the overheating issue in the Sony a7 IV? This is a question I've gotten a few times in the comments of my other videos or in my DMs. People just wanting to know if they want to get the a7 IV because it's cheaper, or if they should invest in the S3 or the FX3. Now, I know that there's a lot of other videos covering this topic, and you've probably done your research. This is probably not the first one you've seen. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the best practices to avoid the overheating issue on the Sony a7 IV that some people are experiencing. And I'm also going to share with you after that my experiences with this issue on the camera. I have had it come up a couple of times, 3 times to be exact. And so I'm going to talk about the circumstances that caused it to happen in each of those situations, as well as kind of my thoughts on this issue altogether. Hopefully by the end of this video, you find this insightful and helpful for you as you try to navigate either which Sony camera to buy if you're in the market to buy one, or 2, if you have the a7 IV or maybe even the a7 III or other Sony cameras and you're having issues with the overheating issue. The principles discussed in this video will pertain to other Sony cameras as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So first thing is, as you probably have already seen in other videos, go into your settings and change it from standard to high. As far as I understand, this isn't going to cause any real concern for your camera. It's just going to raise the limit as to how hot your camera can get before it does indeed shut off. So again, change it from standard to high in your settings. Number 2, leave the LCD screen open as much as possible. Don't shut it when you're recording. Leave it open, and that'll allow more airflow around the camera body itself. All right, number 3, let's breeze through these pretty quickly. Don't hold the camera by the body itself if at all possible. If you're going to be holding the camera going handheld or something like that, hold it by the top handle or a side handle, rig it up a little bit so that you're not constantly holding it with your hot hands, as that does heat it up quicker. It restricts airflow, and so that will contribute it to it overheating quicker. Obviously, if you're putting this on a tripod or a gimbal, then this one won't pertain to you. But if you're going handheld, try not to hold it by the body itself. I'll come back to that point a little bit later. The 4th thing has to do with your power supply. So I talked about this in my last video about my biggest regret in buying this camera was that I bought third-party batteries. Those things are cheaper, but they will not last as long as far as your battery life, but also they heat up the camera quicker. The batteries are probably the biggest contributor to the heat of your camera. So having an off-brand battery will actually heat up the camera even more than the name brand Sony batteries. But an even better solution would be to get a dummy battery going into an external power source like the Anton Bauer Titon base that I'm currently using. Again, talked about it in my last video. And when you have the dummy battery in there, it does not heat up the camera as much as just an actual battery. And the 5th thing is just to be careful about long takes. If you're gonna have to record for long periods of time, like for talking head or an interview type setup, or maybe an event where you are recording a speaker or something, and you're gonna have the camera on and recording for a long period of time, this may also contribute to the overheating issue. This is more of a subjective personal experience point rather than a scientific one, probably, which is a good segue into talk about my experiences with this issue on this camera. So of the 5 months that I've had this camera, it has overheated on me a total of 3 times. It's weird because you go online and you look, and some people are having this issue, some people are not having this issue at all. And I don't know if it's because of the type of content. Some people are saying, oh, I'm shooting long form content, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and it's not overheating on me. I'm one of those where I don't know if it's the version of the camera that I got, or if it's the version of the firmware that I have installed on it. I know there's a more recent firmware I have not actually upgraded to yet. Some of the videos I've watched have said it doesn't really make a difference, so take that for what it is. But other people are having issues, and me being one of them, I'll say I'm having issues because I have had it happen 3 times at this point. So the common denominator for me in this overheating all 3 times was that I was recording long form talking head content in S-Log3 in this format. I can't remember off the top of my head because, again, I'm new to Sony and the file formats are different. But the first time it overheated on me, I was using one of the off-brand batteries. It overheated on me in probably like 23 minutes of just recording. The second time I had it overheat on me, I honestly can't remember if I was using the actual Sony batteries or not, but I was shooting talking head video, and I had stopped recording a couple times to move the camera to a different angle in the same location. But the third time I moved it, the camera had been recording for at least 30 or 45 minutes at that point, but the camera itself was sitting on the stage with me with the bright stage lights that were hot, shining right on me and the camera. And so it was very hot on the stage, and I had to turn the air off in the building because it was loud. And so it was hot and no air circulation. So it did overheat on me in that situation. But again, I had been recording for at least 30 minutes before I moved it to that location, and then I was on the stage for about 10 minutes when it overheated at that point. The most recent time I had it overheat on me was actually in my How to Clone Yourself video, where I was in my office with, again, little to no air circulation, but I was using the external power supply. I was using my battery plate. It had the dummy battery in there, and it overheated on me after about 25 or 30 minutes. It was weird. I took out the dummy battery for maybe 30 seconds, put it back in, and it was fine. And all 3 times when I had it overheat, the camera body itself was not that warm. Like it was warm, but it was not like hot. I've shot wedding before on the a7IV and was hand holding and had it overheat on me a couple of times, and it was very hot to the touch. So this was not like that, which makes me wonder if it is a firmware issue or something like that. So there seems to be like no really rhyme or reason why it overheated on me. That time I was actually really surprised when the camera shut off, because I was doing all the right things that you're supposed to be doing. I was doing those best practices. But again, when I touched the camera and tried to investigate what was going on, at first I thought it was just my external monitor that had died. And then I realized, oh, the camera actually stopped recording for a second. And I took the dummy battery out, and again, it just was not that warm. And so I was like, that's weird. And then I just put it back in and started recording, and I didn't have the warm indicator light on or anything, and I just finished the rest of the video, probably another 15-20 minutes, and it was no issue. So I wish I had like better answers to explain why it happened that time, because that was the one that was most troubling for me, that I was like, I did all the right things. Why did this shut off on me? And that was the 3rd and final time it has done it for me. As of right now, I've been recording for about 16 minutes, and I'm not getting any warnings or anything like that. It's working just fine. Again, I've had it work just fine for me like the majority of the time that I've used this camera. All in all, I'd say it's pretty reliable. It's more of a mystery to me why it has overheated. Again, there's been plenty other times I've recorded for a long period of time and had 0 issues. There was one time recently I was hand holding. I had the top handle and a side handle, but I was recording at a concert and had it running for over an hour of actual recording. I will say, just because in the back of my mind I was a little afraid that it might overheat, I decided not to use the whole sensor, and I put it in Super 35 mode, and so I wasn't using the full 7K sensor. Also, I knew I'd be whipping around a little bit, and that takes away some of the rolling shutter. So I mean, I don't know. If I had not had it punched in like that the whole time, would it have overheated on me? I don't know. But again, and the camera did get a little warm, so I can't remember if the indicator light came on at one point or if I was just feeling it get a little warm. This was before I had the Titan base on it, so I was using a Sony battery. But what I did was I just popped open the door to the battery, and I kind of just fanned it a little underneath with my hand, and it worked out just fine. I didn't have any issues. And again, even the other times when it overheated on me, when I was using a battery, all I did was switch out the battery. I didn't even like leave it open for any period of time to let it cool. I just switched out my battery to a cooler battery, and it worked just fine the rest of the time I used it. So is this a big deal for you? Is this going to affect the kind of content you do? I wish I could give you an answer. I really don't know, because this is still kind of on the newer side, and I don't have any scientific reason to give you of yes or no either way. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be curious, are you having these issues as well? Is this something that you think will get resolved with a firmware later? I don't really know. What are your thoughts on this? Again, for me, I'm really not worried about it. I'm super happy with this camera. It's been reliable for me. Fortunately, the only times that it's overheated on me has been times where I was just filming myself and I was in no rush. It's never happened on a client shoot, which is just luck, because again, it's not been that predictable for me. So that wraps it up for this video. Give it a like if this was in any way insightful or helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.